So this first half is about education or unified education. Now we'd like to move the next subject, the second half, about this panel session. As all of you have known, we have a terrible disaster in Fukushima nuclear power station due to the big earthquake and tsunami 2 years ago. And this somehow indicates us to learn a little bit about the infrastructures or energy policy, because this Fukushima disaster have given so much strong impact to all over the world, especially the advanced country, about the energy policy, whether we continue on nuclear power generation or not. And this very much closely related with greenhouse gas and also sustainable energy. So because of the specialist for this in power, electric power field, I asked each presenter to prepare about the energy policy in their countries. So first, I'd like to ask Professor Nucci, could you start about the Italian energy policy, but not your Prime Minister? Okay.
Thank you, Aki. Thank you, Professor Ametani. Again, not all the material that you have received will be presented now for time reasons. 3 main points: energy, the legislative framework, then production and consumption, and some final remarks. Let's start with the first point, which is energy legislative framework. The last national energy plan, so-called Piano Energetico Nazionale in Italian, is dated in 1988 in Italy, and that was after the accident of Chernobyl. Its implementation has been effective only 3 years after, in 1991. These are the details of the law. And that was largely inspired by European Community energy policy, which means development of renewables and reduction of consumptions, and total ban of nuclear energy. We do not have nuclear energy power stations in Italy since that time, after Chernobyl. It was a public survey. In the following years, there was a lot of focus on building efficiency, electricity market, and of course, Kyoto Protocol. These 3 points have given some outcomes, some results, the focus on these points. So buildings energy regulation, it was a long process starting in 1993, terminated in 2006, which brought to the classification and regulation of building energy efficiency. Electricity market, I would say that this started in 1999, still is going on. One of the main points is that the production from renewable benefits from incentives. The collectivity in Italy pays a lot to include renewables in the power network. Kyoto Protocol, several law decrees from 2002 and 2008. For Italy, the target was 6% of reduction of greenhouse gas emission in the period 2002-2012, compared to 1990. Conto Energia, these are 2 Italian words, which in practical, they mean that we have, starting from 2005 so far, 5 of these Conto Energia decrees, which basically represent incentives for photovoltaics and thermal solar plants. Concerning this legislative framework, I would say that more than a strategic plan, we have worked on action plan, and the strategy was given by Europe. This is the main concept. So the first European directive worth mentioning is the 2006-32C, which gave origin, which has resulted in the Italian Action Plan for Energy Efficiency, which is 9%. In 2007, we decided that. Then the very famous 2020-20 package resulted in the Italian Energy Action Plan, which concerns reduction of greenhouse gas emission, energy saving, share of energy from renewable sources in final gross consumption of energy, which is 70% overall, and 26.4% electricity, excluding pump hydro plants for Italy. recently, the National Energy Strategy, which should be the document describing our national energy strategy, has been subject to public consultation. We will see in the near future the outcome of that. Promotion of energy efficiency, promotion of competitive gas market, sustainable development of renewables, and so on are several of the points which this national energy strategy will deal with. Energy production and consumption. Here you can see the gross internal consumption in megatons equivalent of oil here, divided in total, solid fuels, oil products, gas, nuclear, 0, as you can see, renewables, and electricity import. Here you see the percentage of the import, total 85.2%. This means a lot that we depend on the rest. We do not have ourselves much than 15% of source of energy. If you see Europe, and you see that the situation is very different. For instance, Europe imports only 54.1%. You can see here the two situations compared one to each other. I would say that Italy, you can see from this column, is in a more worrying position rather than Europe. In this slide, you see the same things, just in the form of a pie chart. If we go to this, the situation that I showed it was relevant to 2010. This is the situation in the last years, starting from 1991 to 2010. Italy, you can see here there is an inversion of tendency. Solid fuels are less now than renewables. Italy pushes a lot renewables. There is a lot of discrepancy among these curves. There is not much diversification. If you see Europe, there is much more diversification. You can see all these curves are more closer to each other than for Italy. Concerning installed electrical power, you can see the total electrical power coming from fossil, from hydro, and wind and power. Wind and photovoltaics, sorry. You can see an amazing increase, and this increase is persisting. In this slide, you see, for instance, the photovoltaic electric power in megawatt connected to the grid. In red, you see the cumulated is increasing. Interesting to see that the annual one in the last year had a decrease. This is because the incentives are decreasing, so less photovoltaic plants are installed. Final remarks. Energy source import is large for Italy, 85%. Geopolitical factors play crucial role. We are dependent on these, which means the renewable share increase is necessary. However, materials required for the construction of relevant plants, I mean plants relevant to renewable use, may have limited availability. It's not only pink what is related to renewables. So, increase of energy efficiency is highly necessary. My personal comment is that smart grids and smart city complex implementation may concur to the accomplishment of such a goal of increasing efficiency. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Just one comment.
Italy has no nuclear power stations.
They import from France. Okay, thank you, Carlo. I don't want to say anymore. Now we move to the Finland. The Finland is very famous about the green and so on. So, Matti, could you start that?
So, Finland is also a member of the European Union, and we have to follow their policy. So we have to follow this energy package with 2020 rules. Another aspect is this energy efficiency directive. So how we reacted to this was to pass an act that every electrical load must be automatically, remotely, hourly metered by the end of this year. And also there's a possibility of controlling the loads with the same meter. So we believe that this huge task of installing such meters makes it possible to analyze the energy efficiency and make suitable controls. About in-feed tariffs, we are following a bit different line than 25 member states. Usually in Europe, the in-feed tariff is organized such a way that the power company is obliged to buy. But in Finland, it's direct state subsidizing for the first 12 years and only for plants over 500 kilowatts. Of course, this will prohibit smaller plants to be installed in the power system. Also, one very interesting point is this emission trade. So, in the first phase of emission trade, most of the emission rights were given free to the industries. And now we have the second phase where basically every CO2 ton has to be paid, or both. This is expected to increase the price of power. And it makes a peculiar side effect called windfall profits. I will come back to this a little bit later. Here you see the Nordic generation system. The 4 Nordic countries are operating in the same market. And it's mostly dominated by hydro. Then there's a lot of nuclear power, a lot of combined heat and power generation. And this small box between hydro and nuclear is the renewables. There's still some degree of condensing coal power production, which means that the marginal peak power megawatt hours are being generated by quite emission-rich CO2 producing means. This makes the peculiar effect in the market, because now the power price in the spot market on hourly basis is defined in such a way that the bids to sale are arranged in rising price order, whereas the bid to buy, they are arranged in decaying price order. And at the point of intersection is the balance, which defines the power price for every megawatt hour being sold in the exchange. And now the funny thing here is that if you observe the difference between these two curves, that's the actual price difference between the power generation and what is the market price. So we can say that it is a really good money-making machine to the power companies. Now, what is then the windfall profit? Now you have to imagine that the marginal price is increasing by the amount of CO2 penalties. So it will affect all the power being sold. Also hydro and nuclear power, so it will create extra profits to the power companies. So now we are in a difficult situation. Should we, on the other hand, impose CO2 penalties in form of emission trade, and then accept that somebody is making too much money, having already installed CO2-free capacity? Or should we start to impose taxes on these unacceptable profits? So that is a question. I don't have any answer yet, but there is a discussion going on about this. This is my last slide. It gives the generation situation in Finland in one peak a day, 2009. You see that there's a lot of import from Estonia and Russia, and about 740 megawatts is used for our own peak covering. So looking at this table more closely, there's nuclear power almost 3,000 megawatts, almost 30% of the peak. There's a lot of coal generation, combined heat and power, and there's some 2,000 megawatts of hydro. Now we are in a situation that our own generation capacity is not enough to cover the peak. And we think that our system security is on risk. So should we lose the 1,400 megawatts coming from east, for instance, would cause an uneasy situation in the winter time. So Finland is actively promoting nuclear power construction. There is one very large unit under construction, and there are 2 licenses more to be starting the planning phase. It's the parliament who yields or accepts the licenses to build the plant, and it's 2-phase process. First, you get license to start to prepare the plans, and then when you know how is the plant, where it will be built, and so on, there's a second treatment when you get the license to build it. So it seems that although many of the Western countries, they were slowing down the development of nuclear power due to this Fukushima case, this didn't happen in Finland. Of course, it will have some effect in our case as well. And it seems that the security is getting emphasized now. Of course, it has only good consequences to make it even safer than it was before. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one word. Finland is known for its green capacity, but 3,000 megawatts of nuclear power generation is equivalent to Kansai's Mihama power plant.
Now we move to the Iceland. One of the main reasons why I invite Stella is she from Iceland. And Iceland, there are not much energy resources. A small population and very cold countries. So they have to use energy very, very efficiently. Otherwise, they cannot afford the expense and so on. And really, I welcome and please start about your energy policy in Iceland. Thank you.
Thank you again, Professor Ametani. Now, Iceland, with a very small population, actually is world leading in energy consumption with using 29 megawatt hours per year. Even though we have this high consumption, we are not looking into lowering the consumption, but we actually welcome increase in energy consumption in the country. The reason for this is that we have 100% of electrical energy production from renewable sources. 77% are from hydro plants and 23% are from geothermal energy. In fact, also 89% of all space heating comes from geothermal resources that we have in the ground of the country. And the rest of space heating comes from renewable electricity. The reason for why we have so much geothermal energy is because Iceland is placed on the top of where the North American and the European plates meet. So where they are moving from each other, and from there we have ground heat and volcano activity coming. If we look at the consumption of energy, 70% of all power consumption in the country is from renewable sources. And the remaining 30% are imported fossil fuels for vehicles and fishing vessels and some industrial processes. And when it comes to vehicles and fishing vessels, Iceland is in the front by using hydrogen-powered vehicles. The first station, gas station or hydrogen fuel station was opened in Reykjavik in 2003. And since 2007, 40 public buses in Reykjavik have been run on hydrogen produced from renewable energy sources. This means that almost all public transport in the main city of the country is from hydrogen. If we look at how the generation capacity is split, as I said before, 77-78% comes from hydro and 22 or 23 from geothermal. This is out of a capacity of 2,500 megawatts. For the consumption is 16.5 gigawatts hours per year, where actually 82% comes from power-intensive industry. This means that even though we have such a high consumption per capita per year, most of this consumption comes from industry and not from public or homes. Because of the high use of renewable energy sources, the government in Iceland welcomes more industry, more power production, or power industry that uses much power, because we can feed them with renewable energy. This is because large part of the growth in Iceland and the reason for the rise from the financial crisis of 2008 is actually due to cheap renewable energy sources. Iceland does not have any gold or any oil or any gas, but energy is there. There's plenty of energy in the ground. The low-priced renewable energy is to be offered for power-intensive industry, such as aluminum smelters, greenhouses, and fishing fleet. This makes the economy more stable in the country, and this also very good for the world, as it reduces emission of CO2 and use of fossil fuels and nuclear power. The goal of the Icelandic government is to achieve 100% of all power consumption in Iceland to be from renewable energy sources. When I say all power consumption, I mean including vehicles and fishing vessels, everything. And this is the main reason for why there is so much research and work being done in hydrogen vehicles in the country. And also there's a lot of work being done with electrical vehicles today. Because of the high production of renewable energy, Iceland is looking into possibilities of building a connection to mainland of Europe and exporting green energy to Europe. This has been a dream for about 60 years in the country, but has not been feasible up until now, where we are looking into better technology in HVDC VSC stations and better technology in submarine HVDC cables. There are basically 4 different scenarios, or 3 different scenarios, you could say. That is to build a submarine cable to Scotland and then to the Netherlands, or to build a 2,000-kilometer submarine cable directly to Germany, or to build a 1,250-kilometer submarine cable to Norway. The reason for we will probably choose either this one or this one here and not the one to Norway is because Norway already has a lot of hydropower and renewable sources. So there's more likely that we will sell this energy to Germany. In fact, in Iceland, we have 50 terawatt hours per year that we have not harnessed yet in water and geothermal. And apart from that, we are making a lot of research with wind energy, and as recently as last month, the two wind turbines were raised in Iceland. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Stella. 日本語で言うと、アイスランド。
So if I may speak in Japanese, for electricity locally produced and locally consumed, such a direction is well established in Iceland, and also for heat sources for air conditioner and space heating. Oil is used to heat up the water and then convert that to heat is quite wasteful. But in Iceland, they can use heat. No electricity, but Iceland is quite independent in terms of local production and local consumption, and hydrogen used to power vehicles. Thank you.
Please start, Silvério, about Brazil. ブラジルもかなり日本とは違いますんで。
Brazil is quite a different country from Japan.
I will present some aspects of the Brazilian issue related to energy, okay? First, let's establish some reference. Here you have Brazil and some data from it, and for comparison we have here Japan and corresponding data. We can see that the population in Brazil is around 50% larger than the Japanese one. However, our area is about 25 times larger. And because of that, we have a low population density. Our gross domestic product is about a little less than half of the Japanese one. And because of that, our gross domestic product per capita is very low, about 1/3 of the Japanese one. And because of that, our concerns related to energy is not to have sustainable energy, but to have sustainable growth of energy in order to allow economic growth and then social development. With this perspective, I will give you a brief picture of the present condition of energy in Brazil. First, you see here a graph with the final consumption by source and the total consumption, a little more than 200 megatons of equivalent oil. If you compare this amount with the consumption in the world, we see that we are responsible for about 3% of the consumption of energy in the world, okay? And if we consider the consumption profile per source, we can see that if you look here, the oil, mineral coal, and natural gas, typical in the world, we have a not so large amount. So we have a larger consumption of renewable energy, around 45% against 30% in the world. It is worth to mention that oil is used mainly for transportation, 75%, only 10% is used to generate energy. Another interesting aspect is the relevance of the sugarcane products in the production, in the consumption of renewable energy. You see here about 50% of the renewable energy is from sugarcane bagasse, that is the residual part of the cane, and almost 20% of ethanol, that is the alcohol produced by sugarcane, from cane. And here we see also import the firewood, but renewable one. And finally, I would like to show in this respect that the industrial consumption is around 4% of the electricity. And while residential and commercial part are responsible to around 23% each one of them. Now, if we compare consumption versus production, we see that our production is a little larger than the consumption. This means that basically in terms of energy, the country is self-sustainable at the moment. It was not in the past. And here you see the evolution of the primary energy production since 1970 until 2012. You see we have a stable phase here. Then around 1980, we doubled the production, basically. Again, this coincided with a period of large economical growth, then it was stable again, and from around 1998, we have a constant increase of the production that is more than the double of this part, okay? And it is very concentrated still in non-renewable energy, gas natural and petrol, oil. And about 45% correspond to renewable energy, because other also include some renewable energy. It's important to mention that electricity is very important in Brazil for several reasons, mainly because it requires basically all the hydraulic energy produced there. Most of the demand for natural gas and mineral coal is used for electricity generation, and around 10% of the demand of oil is dedicated to the production of electricity, and most of the demand for other renewable energy. One fundamental aspect is that the base for electricity supply in Brazil is the hydraulic energy. You see here about 82%. We have a very little production of nuclear. From oil, it is also reduced. Natural gas, wind, it was at that time in 2012, it was small, it has increased a lot, and biomass, also it's important, but hydraulic prevails largely. So all the policy for energy development in Brazil is conditional by this aspect. Let's go to the plan for the next 10 years. Here you see the profile that is not very different from now, from the last year to 2021. But we predict a very large growth of 56% in this period. And this growth is based basically on a huge increase of oil reserves that we began to explore last year in the Brazilian coast. It's due also to the policy of exploring the huge hydraulic reserves that we still have in the region north and central west, mainly in the Amazon area. And in this case, we need very long transmission line, 3,000 kilometers long, crossing the country, and they are being constructed. And also is based on the policy to explore other renewable energy sources, notably sugarcane products that are very important and unique in Brazil, and the wind energy. In this year, we expect to have 16 gigawatts of wind energy produced in Brazil. So that's all for now. Thank you.
We envy Brazil, 80% or more of hydro.
So much hydraulic power, but also sugarcane. Satokibi mo ii na. Okay, thank you very much. Now we move to the Korea, the quite similar situation as Japan. So Professor Park, please start your presentation.
Thanks again, Professor Ametani. This time I am going to introduce recent energy policy change in Korea after Fukushima disaster. I will talk about briefly Korean statistics in energies and consumption. And there are two national plans for the energy generation and energy consumption in Korea. I will briefly talk about it. And the key points, key issues after Fukushima is nuclear, renewable, and recently in USA, the shale gas production. So again, the numbers are shown. It's the rank of Korea. For example, the economic status is 15th from the viewpoint of GDP, and energy consumption is 9th. That means the Korea has very energy consuming industrial structure. That is not good, but inevitable for Korea to be developed. And Korea depends on overseas in energy production. It's almost 97%. I think this is even worse than Japan. I envy today very much Brazil, Finland, Iceland. They have Satokibi and geothermal and hydraulic power. Korea is a small land, no sunshine, no land for the sunshine, and is close to China and not so much wind. So energy problem is maybe most severe in the world. So Korean government should pay attention to energy very much. And we have a master plan for national energy. It coincides with the presidential terms. So always a new president should decide a new master plan of energy. So as you know, in newspaper, we have a new women president. That is the first one in our history. So she also should decide in which way the energy plans. There's every 5 years, and this year, this plan should be renewed. It's a big burden for her. And also, as for the electricity, that is the biggest energy which is consumed in the end users. We have a basic plan for long-term electricity demand and supply that is renewed every 2 years. And that is also depends on the master plan for the national energy. And we recently renewed this one, that is the 6th. Here, the first issue is nuclear. We have learned also many things in the energy plan and energy consumption and production from Japanese experiences, not only education, but also in energy policies. But Japan has experienced, suffered from Fukushima disasters. Japan still do not establish finally, I think, the nuclear policy. So I hope Japan should decide in the near future their nuclear policy. So we can cooperate in deciding energy policies, including nuclear generations. After Fukushima, Korea has also very pondering on the nuclear generation policies. And the safety issues have decreased the national preference of nuclear energy. The minor political party of Korea is very against to nuclear energy. Still, the new President Park is not so against. So renewing the license for nuclear power plants with expired one will also be based on thorough safety check, economic feasibility, and acceptance of citizens. We have about 25 reactors, and 2 reactors was renewed 2 years ago. But I am afraid that no renewing of the lifetime comes. The lifetime of a Korean nuclear power is 30 years. And also, additional construction of nuclear power plants, except for already planned one, is unlikely to be included in second master plan for national energy. That is also a big problem. We have very scarce resources, natural resources. So we do not have, in some sense, no alternatives. One choice is renewable. So the renewable generation capacity will be expanded by 20,000 megawatt until 2020. That is the 3 times of the last one, 2 years before master plan. It's almost 3 times expanded because of the reduction of nuclear energy. The role of renewable in national energy plan has been greatly increased from previous plans. And that will be reflected into the master plan for national energy in 2013. To keep the plan feasible, police support and technology development should be preceded. So last issue is shale gas. The portion of gas generation was to be decreased from 22% in 2010 to 9.7% by 2024. But with the advent of shale gas, Korean government is planning to increase the imports of shale gas up to 20% of LNG imports by 2020. Fortunately, Korea has an FTA with the USA, so she can import from USA. As a part of it, from 2017, 3.5 million tons of shale gas will be imported from USA every year. The portion of gas generation capacity is expected to be 22% in 2020. Such changes will also be included the second master plan of energy. The last item is that Korea has liberalized electricity business. It divested the generation sector from the monopoly, and there are some independent power producers. I understand that Japan also plans to liberalize the Tokyo Electric Power Company after Fukushima disaster. So we are going to IPP with coal-fired power plants in the future. The first IPPs was gas-fired generation, but in the future, we are going to IPPs expanded to coal, even nuclear, such as Hyundai, Samsung, and POSCO. They can build a nuclear power plants. That is the first trial for the Korea. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Park. The
situation in Korea is very similar to that in Japan. The nuclear power plant is seen with the negative view, but instead the shale gas import has been decided from the United States. This is directly related to TPP, and energy policy is very much related to this. Thank you very much.
Presentation, Shimada-san, about infrastructure and human resource development in Afghanistan の例題をいろいろお話しいただくこと、よろしくお願いします。
英語でやるんですよね。
So I'd like to introduce myself in Japanese. My name is Shimada. I am with JICA, and I'm in charge of Afghanistan, and I lived there for about 2 years. And just recently, I stayed there for 1 month.
Presentation is totally different from other presentations. But let me touch upon Afghanistan. First, yes, I think when you hear the Afghanistan, your image is not so good, it's a bad image. Yes. And the development over the decade, long-lasting conflicts. Conflicts continued 20 or 30 years in Afghanistan. Such kind of long-lasting conflicts caused severe conditions of infrastructure, road, power, water, and everything. And this is a statement by the Carlo. He is an ambassador of the United States to Afghanistan and former commander of the foreign military in Afghanistan, where wars and Taliban begins. This means the infrastructure, in this case, the road is a key to stabilization, key to reconstruction, a key to development of the country like Afghanistan. However, we can find a quick improvement over the past decade. Past decade means 2001 to 2011. For example, travel time Kabul to Kandahar. So like Tokyo and Osaka, it used to be 19 euros, but now we can travel in the 5 hours, just 5 hours. And the next is power generating capacity. 10 years ago, under the Taliban regime, only 243 megawatts, but now over 900 megawatts. And I can show you some efforts. So I think so. I don't think so. So people, you have no experience going to the Afghanistan. So I can show you some efforts. This is the Kabul International Airport. Yeah, this is nice airport, and this is built by Japanese Japanese aid. So your money, your tax money, contributes to building this airport. Yeah, and the right side photo is solar power generation panel. This is also installed by Japanese grant aid program. And next one is road. Yes, this is road. Yeah, and so this photo is very nice, but I don't know where this is. Anyway, this is like Afghanistan, and the upper side is also Afghanistan. Some parts of the road is also constructed by Japanese assistance. And next, power. Yeah, upper side is hydropower plant, and lower side is power plant close to the Kabul, capital city of the Afghanistan. Anyway, so this kind of power station was renovated and reconstructed. However, we still have some challenges, some problems. However, poor conditions due to low capacity of human resources have caused difficulties in project identification, appraisal, procurement, evaluation. This means to find project, to manage project is very a tough condition because of lack of human resources. So this brings about low budget execution rate. In Japanese, 予算執行率ですね。low budget execution rate. Only half of the money is used. So half of the money can't be used now. And concerns about operation and maintenance in infrastructure. Operation and maintenance is so important, but now in Afghanistan, lack of human resources it's difficult for this kind of operation and maintenance. Yes, this is last slide. And needs and expectation to GRM. So engineers with knowledge on social sciences and manage with knowledge on engineering from planning and implementation of infrastructure projects. Anyway, so of course we need an engineer. They need an engineer, of course, and they need a manager with knowledge on engineer. So I'd like to expect to foster this kind of human resources in this program. And kindly, Doshisha University receives some Afghan students. So I hope so they will be going back to the Afghanistan and contribute to the nation building, state building in the future. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And so, managers with knowledge of engineering is one of the expectations on the GRM, human capability development.
We like to close this panel session at this moment. Thank you very much for your audience.
どうもありがとうございました。では最後に。
Thank you very much. The program coordinator of GRM, Professor Masanori Naito, will wrap up with the closing address. I'd like to thank the panelists. Thank you very much for your contributions. I also would like to thank the audience for being with us throughout the program. Thank you very much for your participation. This symposium, in the first half, we dealt with international situations and also how we position the global resource management doctoral program. I think we had the scientific and social perspectives dealing with this GRM. And in the panel discussion, we had a discussion or presentations on the integration of humanities with natural science-related curriculum, and also the presentations on the infrastructure perspective. Thank you very much for informative presentations. I believe some of you in the audience are already students of the program. They are also citizens sitting in the audience, and especially for unified education and the perspectives on infrastructure, I think it was quite a challenging attempt to link these two up to discuss in this program. But as I listened to the discussion, I have learned about the situation of electricity of each country and the ideas about the geopolitical aspects in order to have a stable supply of electricity and how best to use the renewables for the stable management of each country's economy. I think I have learned a lot. As a matter of fact, I had no idea as to how this panel discussion would unfold. I have left everything to Professor Ametani, but as I have discovered myself, when we discuss issues related to energy and infrastructure, these are matters that are related directly to our daily lives. After March 11, 2011, we have been facing this particular issue in Japan, and through these leading graduate school program, we are not trying to develop students catering only to such topics. We are hoping that we will be able to develop human resources who will take up the challenge to resolve global challenges and issues. Once they have become experienced overseas, I hope that they would come back to Japan to deal with specific challenges that Japan is facing. So we in Doshisha have been following the concept of education of the conscience, and in pursuing this program, we have made sure that in our program we do not aim to create successful people such as Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. That is not our aim. Perhaps we wanted to nurture people more closely who resemble like a Mother Teresa. But of course, we are Protestant. She was Catholic. That's a difference. But we nevertheless want to develop people who can be active on a grassroots level to come up with solutions that people are facing on an everyday level. So I thank you once again for your participation, and also thank the panelists once again. Thank you very much. Finally, I'd like to thank the administrative staff who have helped us in preparing for the symposium. Thank you very much.